The alarm on my wrist screamed before my eyes even opened. Hull breach warning. 90 seconds of air left in the derelict ship I had crawled into, and I was still 3 decks away from the airlock. My name is Ethan Reyes, and I was not supposed to be inside that dead slave transport at all. Command had ordered a simple scan and retreat, but scanners had picked up one active life sign buried deep in the cargo hold, and I could not leave a living person to die alone in the dark, even if the ship around her was falling apart. I found her pod flickering behind a wall of frost. A girl, or something close enough to one, with skin marked in faint silver lines and ears shaped like curved glass. A thick black collar was fused around her neck, wired straight into a power core that was overheating fast. If that core blew, it would take her with it. I did not think. I grabbed my multi-tool, jammed it into the seam of the collar, and cut through the locking mechanism. Sparks bit my fingers. The collar fell away and hit the floor with a heavy clang. Her eyes opened. She did not gasp for air like I expected. She grabbed my wrist with a grip strong enough to bruise and stared at the broken collar in my other hand like it was a live grenade. "What have you done?" she said, her voice sharp and shaking. "I saved your life," I said. The core was about to blow. "We need to move. Now." She did not move. "Do you understand what you have done?" I dragged her up anyway, threw her arm over my shoulder, and ran. We made it to the airlock with 4 seconds to spare, before the hold behind us lit up in a silent flash of decompression. My shuttle sealed just as the derelict ship folded in on itself outside the window. Only when we were both breathing steady air again did she speak. "You cut my collar without asking permission from my guardian, my owner, or my spouse," she said. "There is no guardian here. There is no owner here. Under Threnkai law, that leaves only one answer." "What answer?" She looked at me like I was slow. "You are my husband now." I laughed, thinking it was some translation error from my ear implant. She did not laugh. "It is not a joke, human. It is law. Whoever removes a collar with full knowledge of what they are doing accepts full responsibility for the one who wore it. On my world, that responsibility has one name: marriage." I stared at her for a long moment. "I did not know that. I just wanted to stop you from dying." "Intention does not matter," she said. "Only the act. You knew it was a collar. You knew it meant ownership. You removed it anyway. The law does not care why." Her name was Vesa. Over the next hour, as the shuttle carried us back to the Meridian's chance, she explained her people in short, clipped sentences, like she was reciting facts to keep herself calm. The Threnkai were a trade culture, built on ownership and rank. A collar was not punishment. It was status, paperwork, proof of who a person legally belonged to. Without one, she was nothing in the eyes of her own people. Free, but also unclaimed, which to them meant unprotected, available to anyone with the right documents. "So the collar keeps you safe," I said slowly, trying to understand. "The bond behind the collar keeps me safe," she said. "The collar is only the proof, and right now, you are the proof." When we docked, my commanding officer, Captain Whitmore, was not thrilled to hear that a rescue mission had somehow turned into an accidental interstellar wedding. He wanted the whole thing quietly canceled before anyone from the Threnkai trade bloc heard about it. Humanity was still new to the wider galaxy, still trying to prove we were worth trusting, and a diplomatic mess involving alien marriage law was the last thing anyone wanted. "We annul it," Whitmore said. "Today, before their envoy arrives for the wreck inspection." "You cannot annul it," Vesa said, standing straighter than her small frame should have allowed. "Not without a Threnkai magistrate present. If you strip the bond by force, I revert to unclaimed status the moment their envoy scans me. I will be reclaimed as recoverable cargo from a wrecked transport. That is the law too." Whitmore looked at me like this was somehow my fault, which, in fairness, it kind of was. "Then what do you want us to do?" he asked her. Let the bond stand until the envoy leaves, she said. After that, I will find my own way. But if you break it now, I go back into a cage. I would rather take my chances with a human husband I do not know than a life I do know. Nobody had a better plan, so the bond stood. For the next 3 days, I taught Vesa how to move through a human ship without drawing attention, how to hold a fork, how to answer simple questions about herself without sounding like she was reading from a legal document. She was sharp, faster at learning than I expected, and stubborn in a way that reminded me of my sister back home. She kept waiting for me to ask something in return for helping her. Extra rations, favors, anything. I never did. You confuse me, she told me on the second night, sitting across from me in the mess hall, while the rest of the crew slept. Where I come from, nothing is given without a price. Where I come from, we try not to put a price on people, I said. She studied me for a long moment, like she was translating my words into something that actually made sense to her. That is a strange custom, she said quietly. I am not sure I believe it yet. On the 4th day, the Threnkai envoy arrived. His name was Dravik, a tall, composed man in fitted gray robes with a data pad permanently attached to his hand. He toured the wreck salvage records with polite, careful questions, and then, almost casually, asked about the one surviving cargo unit our scans had logged before the ship broke apart. Whitmore introduced Vesa as my spouse under Threnkai law, backed by the emergency rescue clause. Dravik's expression did not change, but his eyes moved over her collarless neck like he was doing math. She was manifest as cargo, Dravik said. Valuable cargo. I am prepared to offer generous compensation for her return. This need not be complicated. She is not for sale, I said. Dravik smiled, unbothered. Human sentiment does not override Threnkai property law outside Threnkai courts. However, since she claims bond status, I am permitted to invoke challenge right, a formal accounting, before a neutral magistrate. If your stewardship is proven false, the bond is void and she returns to manifest. Vesa's hand found my arm and gripped it tightly. Accept it, she whispered. If you refuse, it looks like you have something to hide. Refuse the challenge, and he takes me anyway. I looked at Dravik. Fine, let's do this. The hearing happened the next morning, in the ship's largest conference room, converted for the occasion. A Threnkai magistrate named Oram, small and gray-robed, sat at the head of the table, with a data slate in front of her. Dravik sat across from us, calm and confident. Whitmore stood near the door, arms crossed, clearly hoping this would be over fast. Oram spoke first, her voice flat and unimpressed by ceremony. This hearing determines one question only. Has the bondholder demonstrated genuine stewardship, or has he demonstrated exploitation? Present your case. Dravik went first, laying out the manifest, the value of the cargo unit, the irregular circumstances of the rescue, the convenience of a human suddenly gaining a spouse during a salvage operation. He painted it as opportunism, a human taking advantage of confused alien law to claim valuable property for free. Then it was Vesa's turn to speak. I expected her to hedge, to protect herself by staying neutral, the way she had been trained her whole life to survive. Instead, she stood straight and spoke clearly, without a single shake in her voice. He has asked nothing of me, she said. Not labor, not obedience, not gratitude. He taught me how to eat with a human fork, because he thought I might feel embarrassed doing it wrong in front of strangers, not because it benefited him. When I asked what he expected in return for teaching me, he looked at me like the question itself was strange. In my entire life, no one has asked what I wanted, instead of telling me what I was worth. He did, without meaning to, simply by treating me like a person and not a unit on a manifest. The room was quiet. Dravik opened his mouth to object, but Oram raised one hand and he stopped. Precedent is clear, Oram said after a long pause. Stewardship is not measured by wealth exchanged or documents filed. It is measured by conduct toward the bonded individual. I find the bond legitimate. The challenge is dismissed. The cargo claim is void. Dravik's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. He gathered his datapad, gave a short, formal nod, and left the room without another word. Whitmore let out a breath I did not realize he had been holding. "Well," he said, "that is one problem solved." Vesa did not look at him. She looked at me, and for the first time since I had cut that collar off her neck, she smiled, small and real. Later that night, standing near the airlock where this whole strange story had started, she held the broken collar in both hands one last time before tossing it out into open space through the disposal chute. "Humans have a strange custom," she said, watching it drift away. "You remove someone's chains and call it a promise instead of a purchase." "Something like that," I said. "I would like to understand this custom better," she said, "if you are willing to teach me." "I have got nothing but time," I said. Outside the window, the stars kept moving, steady and endless, and for the first time in a long while, neither of us was in a hurry to look away from each other.